Starting. Stream health is green, but I have no preview.
Okay, let's start bringing people in. I'll do that. Hi guys, if no one's watching yet. Yay, even better. Let's start bringing people in. Because my laptop's moving really slow.
Speak again.
Hello.
Wow, you're quiet.
Hi. Are you on the right mic?
I am on the right mic.
See,
I can hear you, you're just really quiet.
Well, I'll speak up if they talk to me.
Yes, ma'am. That is a bit of a wide angle lens, isn't it?
Just a little. Is anyone watching yet? Nope. Maybe they don't like us.
It is a picture of a velociraptor. If it was a harpy, it was only on the stream for like a second. But I'll bet somebody might have seen it if they had been watching.
I guess if no one joins in like 5 minutes, we'll just say screw it.
If you like.
Oh hey, there's someone there.
There's a human. Oh no. Now the pressure's on.
Hello, human. Welcome to the Q&A. If I look distracted, it's because I'm doing final setup.
Uh-oh. Two.
We're in trouble now. Hi guys.
So I've got a preview here, and a preview here. There's no delay for that one, but there's substantial delay for this one. It's screwing me up.
Oh, that. Yeah, because that's right on your computer and plays real time.
Correct.
Well, welcome to the first two of you who have joined us. I guess since I'm in IRC already, if you want to ask questions there, you can, but you have to ping me at Elizabeth_TGG. Otherwise, ask any questions you'd like in those AV Geeks. We're focusing just on plans in AV and things we're working on, and if we cover all of that somehow, just any other questions you guys want to ask. And assuming we actually have an active dialogue going of sorts, we'll be here till about 7:30, 8 o'clock if it gets really wild. Shut up.
It was an interesting word to use for a live stream.
Yeah.
Really wild.
I mean, some live streams get wild. If they didn't, cam girls wouldn't make money.
Not on YouTube, they are not. I enjoy that we're in this large, somewhat pretty and interesting looking room, but we're tucked away in Steven's corner where there's just a gray wall.
Well, the camera fit here.
This is true.
Talk about your setup.
Talk about my setup?
Yeah.
Oh, it's difficult to like visualize. Oh wait, I drew a picture of it today.
And I effed up the post on Facebook. Chud is not a word.
It should cover up the stream temporarily, but this is an illustration of my setup. Hey, it worked. I had to wait for it to actually confirm. But I have a tilted desk that I acquired when we were cleaning out what is now the print shop. And it is much more suited to my great height. And I'm using one of the Fox 17 stool chairs so that I can elevate myself off the ground, because there's a certain distance that you need to be for your seat and for your desk surface for maximum comfort. And I was having some problems with my wrists and lower back from sitting in a bad position all day, every day. And then to facilitate that, I have this monitor mount, so I have the dual monitor setup that's anchored to my actual desk, which is behind the tilted desk, and that's where most of my stuff is. And I've got my tablet as well, and a pair of socks with foam in them so that I can rest my wrists on them.
JDB Manilow wants to know about your wiener.
I don't have any wieners. Oh wait, I do have a wiener. So, okay.
Did you lose it? Was it cold?
Well, I ate all of my hot dogs, but this weekend I bought a smoked sausage.
Okay.
So I guess that's not technically a wiener because it's larger than a wiener. But I have a smoked sausage. About 1.5 feet long. That big around.
Not to brag or nothing. Is it detachable?
That song's popularity continues to perplex me.
Hi, Crash Cart. How are you doing? Or wait, Cheshire Cat. Sorry, Chris confuses me with what your name actually is sometimes, and I forget. So I guess while we wait for people to keep asking questions, what have you been working on?
Oh, well, I already showed briefly, but I'm making a new art for the top of those AV Geeks YouTube channel that uses the new, more simplified and much easier to draw characters, because I don't have to clean them up at all because they're chibis, and it kind of looks charming when they're all got the rough line art still in there, which I prefer, because then I don't have to go in with the pen tool / line tool and actually figure all that out.
I like the stompy boots I'm wearing.
I would like to point out that the stompy boots that Liz's chibi form has were a design parameter from on high.
Didn't I tell you just to draw the boots that you had in some comic of me?
Yes, which I could totally bring up since we're talking about this.
You still have it?
Of course I still have it. I have not deleted pretty much anything. I just can't always find it.
So while he looks for that, what do you guys want to know about AV and how it's going right
Boots.
now? Oh, he found it.
I have no way of previewing, so I'm just going to estimate. But this is all based on a single event. This was back when Liz had longer hair and she would occasionally have it in a ponytail and the boots. And I found it amusing that she was yelling at Gmail, because when Liz is angry, it's actually it's like if a bunny rabbit was angry at something.
Thanks. Dick. JDB Manilow asks, Steven, what would you say is a good way to start doing animation? I assume that means breaking into learning it.
I too am going to interpret that question as, how do you get started with the actual craft of animation rather than breaking into the business? There are a number of free software options available depending on what kind of animation you want to get into. I started with 2D. I was fortunate enough that I was starting in college, so I had access to Adobe Flash, which is reasonably powerful even still now that it's Adobe Animate. but there's plastic animation paper, there's that, what was it called? Open Tunes is what it's called. Tunes with a Z was recently made open source. That's the software that the Ghibli people use. Well, it's a fork of the software the Ghibli people use. I haven't used it very much. I've tried it out. It does what they say it does. I haven't used any of the more advanced features on it. I do like how it basically arranges your timeline as an X sheet rather than as a straight up timeline like what Flash or After Effects does. But there's a few others. But if you want to get into like 3D animation, there's Blender is free. You can't beat the price. It's pretty powerful. It'll do everything you want it to do as long as you're willing to bash your head against it for a while, which is good training for every other piece of 3D software you'll ever use. Anyone who's interested could totally, I have an email that I add to every once in a while and send to anytime someone asks me, how do I get started in animation? And there's some resources in there for people to get started. There's a lot of resources online that weren't online when I started doing this. If you're not following Cartoon Brew ED on Facebook, you should be. There's a bunch of working animators and storyboard artists who have like Tumblrs and whatnot, and they post tips regularly. I like Grizzled Norm in particular, but again, I'm a 2D person, so that appeals to me.
Apparently, your artistic rendering of me reminds JDB of Ruby Rose from RWBY.
I only watched the first episode of that, and I couldn't watch any more.
Why?
I didn't like it.
Well, obviously.
It was video game animation. It was, I don't like the look of it. I mean, that animator can rest in peace, and it's impressive that he was self-taught.
I watched a little bit of it too. Thought the writing was just kind of bad.
The writing was what I expected going in, because it was Rooster Teeth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monty Oom.
But just, it had the same problem that every bad video game cutscene has, where everybody does these floaty actions, and they didn't know how to set up a shot to hide the weirdness of their rendering. Maybe they were trying to do a stylistic thing where it's supposed to look like a bad cutscene, but I don't know. Maybe it improved later on in the show, but based on what I saw in the first episode, I didn't feel like watching the rest. Jansen asks, has there been any progress on the recording studio? Chris hasn't talked about it for several months.
It's been sitting waiting for funding. We still have the studio campaign up on the Geek Group, as far as I know. But the next thing we need that I know of is the rubber insulation layer, and that costs quite a bit. So it's just sitting waiting for people to donate.
If I wasn't afraid to move the camera, I would turn it like 60 degrees so you could see the pile of drywall that has been sitting in D for a year now? A little over a year now.
It's something we'd like to keep continuing on, but things are such that we either don't have the people to dedicate their time to nothing but it, or we don't have the money, or both.
The purpose of the pile of drywall is to go on top of the mechanical rubber so that you have 2 layers of isolation. JDB Manilow, I am choosing to believe that you said exactly what you meant to say. It is much better.
Like the emphasis on that typo. It's butch. Butch better. It's a bit of finalization to that.
See, usually with English orthography, you would read that as book. Book better.
It would be really nice to see the recording studio fundraiser make some progress, though, because we have ideas for series like I do, and I don't remember if you did or not, but I know Chris does, that we'd like to try out, but there's really no point till we have proper rooms to do it in. Right now it echoes like crazy.
Oh, for voiceover purposes.
Well, that too, but
Yeah. Even just having a proper voiceover booth would be wonderful, because now it's just kind of, you have to play, well, which room has the least amount of stuff going on in it?
yep. I'm really waiting for the day we can do a room with streaming, just a computer and a voiceover setup for streaming and actual software tutorials.
Yeah, I would
'Cause-
love to do actual software tutorials.
Because right now, even tiptoeing through here, you can hear the echoes. What else you guys want to know? No one's pinging me in IRC, so.
If we go 30 seconds without a question, I'm just going to start talking about dinosaurs.
Stop it. You're not allowed to just start talking about dinosaurs.
I'm going to segue gracefully into talking about dinosaurs.
This still counts as just talking about dinosaurs. I mean, I guess we could mention that we shot Carnotaurus recently.
I made a blog about that.
Yes.
I mean, I made a blog about the setup. I didn't actually blog about the show. I was rather proud of that episode. I got like the first half of it out in one take.
You also practiced for like probably a cumulative 3 hours.
Yeah. I practiced more at home also. I was nervous. We hadn't done a dinosaur episode in 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
We shot the last one last July. Admittedly, when we shot the last one, we still had 3 in the can.
Yeah. We had grand ideas of shooting things in bulk and then editing them to release weekly. I'll do JDB and then Cheshire Cat's questions. Liz, what is the premise of what you're going to do with my Rubik's Cube? We're going to blow it up. We had an abuse of power that we shot really early into the series, and due to certain operators deciding to screw around a bit, attempting a more momentous thing because Thumper had just come online, and the miscommunication that led to, someone interpreted don't go as go. So they went. But I didn't get the shot because they went when I said don't go. So we have all of this setup footage for a generic little Rubik's Cube from, the company that makes the bona fide Rubik's Cubes, but we don't have the explosion. So I was just looking for any old Rubik's Cube that was definitely their brand to blow up. And it works out because now we have the Edgertronic, and now we also have an adapter that takes Sony A lenses, which Moose has a lot of, and puts them on.
Greetings.
Hi.
Oh,
What's up?
What's up?
editor says greetings.
Okay. He completely derailed my train of thought. Takes Sony A lenses and puts them to a Nikon F mount, which is what the Edgertronic has. So hopefully we can get even better shots than we were before, and you can actually see some of the details in that without the picture being grainy and noisy, because you can only put so much light in there before you either have too many lights in the way or it's just not helping. So yeah, that's what we're doing with the Rubik's Cube.
I forgot that we didn't have the Editronic for that. We were just doing the weird slow-mo that the MX-5s can do.
Yeah. Which isn't so much slow-mo as it's just managing to stretch frames out, or the space between frames, if that even makes sense. Cheshire Cat just wants to know what's generally going on with AV. Right now, what we're hoping to start getting into is getting the Patreon funded more, which we already made $320 in like the first month and a week, which is really awesome. The ultimate goal is to start building a more stable team with that money. That way we can reliably plan things like weekly episodes of certain series and still do one-off stuff like the Robot Smash and that. And it gives us a chance to actually pump a little more quality into what we're doing. The reason we're going this route is because having stuff like the interns and volunteers that we get, they're generally coming as extremely novice when we're lucky. So we have to train, and then when we're finished training them to the point where they are at acceptable level to be left to their own devices a bit to just get videos done, they leave because the semester's over. So that's the general goal and state of AV. Right now we actually added 2 people to the AV research team, which is the $50 perk on Patreon. And what I plan to do with them is start doing a lot of heavy research into things we plan to autopsy. And that way we can hopefully have a bunch of bullet points and stuff that will allow us to add way more content a lot more succinctly to the equipment autopsies and make them slightly more exciting and stuff like that. Because we want to start getting into like the history and some of the cool scientific principles behind certain parts, or even the thing, whatever the thing is, that shoot as a whole. And from there we want to try and establish that as a weekly-ish series that'll probably come and go in seasons, like twice a year. For now at least. We're not quite sure yet. If we could somehow manage to do one once a week, every week of the year, other than holiday weeks, that would be kind of cool. But I'm not going to dedicate myself to it that quickly. And then we want to do maybe a weekly high voltage thing, which will be usually probably abuse of power type stuff, but whenever there's something going on with Tesla coils or thumper upgrades or repairs, or the Marks generator and stuff like that, we'll also do videos on those. And I'm kicking around the idea of like a weekly update for the channel, because when people come to our channel, it's really hard to tell what we actually do if you go just by the video list. So I'm thinking if we had some kind of series that focused on us as a makerspace and science center, hopefully enough people would see it that would make a lot more sense. But I'm not sure yet.
That makes sense to me.
Dave Archer asks, would it be possible to make a decent render farm out of a cluster of Raspberry Pis? I don't think they've got the stones for that. I haven't messed with Raspberry Pi, but I really don't think they would.
I am going to, what do you call that? I'm going to deflect that question by saying we don't really have a need for a render farm because we have one in the hallway.
Well, that too. We do have the Teslas, which are waiting for a project, basically, where they would be needed. Most of the stuff we do here is rendered at worst in a few hours, depending on what it is and depending on the computer.
Hello, decrease in entropy from Italy. You should share your secret to decreasing entropy.
JDB asks, any plans on continuing the CNC series? If you watch the latest public stream that just came out, you'll see Steve actually animating for our G-code episodes. We are going to continue it. It's just a little slow going at the moment because of other stuff happening, but we're starting with G-code and going from there. Or at least we're continuing it with G-code and going from there.
I've been trying to come up with a way to show what G-code does as concisely, but also as completely as possible using pictures rather than words. We're still going to have words in the video, but I'm trying to communicate as much as possible before we actually write and record the script there.
Is the Tesla cluster waiting on something to be up and running, or is it turnkey at this point waiting on a project? I think other things just came up at like in the last couple weeks and or month.
I was gonna say that's a Paul question.
Yeah, that too.
There's some components sitting on the, oh.
Uh-oh. We are having technical difficulties. Please hold.
Oh yeah, they probably still have audio.
That's a nice desktop to cut to.
Oh yeah.
Our camera just decided to stop, so yay! Is it still rolling?
I forgot they do that.
So I guess, how long have we been running? Every 30 minutes we have to we have to check the camera and make sure it's not going to just quit on us.
We still have no picture. I'm gonna stop streaming and start again. Sure.
Tell them to refresh.
Oh, do they have to refresh?
I don't know, but just in case. Oh, they can see us. Yay. Sorry about that, guys. We didn't realize the camera would cut out after half an hour.
This isn't actually using live out mode. This is using the remote controller through the, we're doing a very sort of jank setup to actually do the streaming today because we didn't have a decent quality webcam to use. So what I'm using is the take a picture through your computer function that the Canons have, and I'm capturing that part of my monitor to the stream. And I believe it turned off because the camera will automatically turn off after a certain amount of time of inactivity. So I guess I could like take a still every once in a while and then it wouldn't turn off, maybe. This is by far, wait, this is far away from the shittiest rig we have had.
Oh yeah.
Like, I could bring in the one from the hallway
No.
there. Okay. Ah! What was I answering?
I don't remember.
Oh, something about the Tesla cluster. So, there's a bunch of components of the Tesla cluster sitting on a cabinet next to the cabinet that actually holds the Teslas. It's not hooked up, and I'm not exactly sure what needs to happen to hook it up. But as far as I know, it does work.
Yeah, Tesla video, I think Tesla coils in general, once we got the winder generally working and a few coils wound, other things just happened to come up, which is why just not really focusing more on it right now. But it, you know, as soon as Chris says we're doing video, we're doing more video on it. I'm just not aware of anything else coming up.
I was talking about the render engine.
Oh.
But yeah, there's two things called Tesla in this building.
See, you said Paul, and I jumped to Kidwell.
Oh, no, Cake. I usually call Kidwell for that reason.
See, this is the problem from too many people having a hard-on for Nikola Tesla.
Oh.
'Cause it could be the car, it could be the render farms, it could be the actual coils.
Only one of them is actually a Tesla invention, though. I don't actually know why the NVIDIA product is called the Tesla.
Who knows? But now you got two updates for one, Cheshire.
Yeah.
What else would you guys like to know? Do you know the parts list in your editing rigs? God, no. I took it as it was donated to me.
There's,
It has an NVIDIA card. I know that.
yeah, mine also has an NVIDIA card. I know because it sometimes complains when I'm doing things. It'll,
I'm that terrible, terrible film person that gives no craps about the hardware beyond does it work and what can I do with it by trial and error.
I am a similar way. We don't have anything really fancy. I have a significant amount of RAM, and I have, what do I have, 16 cores?
It sounds about right. I'm pretty sure mine has 16 as well.
Yeah. But
It has enough that I've never had a complaint, even in After Effects.
I think both of ours were pretty much ready to go when they came in.
Mm-hmm.
Also, neither of ours is like a purpose-built editing or animation rig or whatever. Like,
It was just built to be generally powerful.
yeah, they're general video workstations rather than being optimized to any particular task.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could make a computer that's very, very good at like 3D animation, which would be great if I did a lot of 3D animation, but it's like, okay, I have this job that needs 3D. Now I have this job that needs compositing. Now I have this job that's probably going to be Illustrator and Flash, etc.
Yeah, we're still very much in the we take whatever we get and make it work until it's no longer fixable phase of production or being a production studio.
Blazing Mandrill says at some point he suspects that all that goes down is the rendering time.
Basically. I mean,
There's something to be said for having more powerful preview capability, but even the pros will get by with whatever minimum level they need to just get a visualization of what they're doing with the scene. Steven, AVI Tech asks, Steven, do I use other software other than After Effects for animation? I do, all the time. After Effects is where everything winds up for final composite and render, but I often use Adobe Flash, which is now Adobe Animate. Actually, I prefer Flash CS6 because in Adobe Animate, if you try and do some of the stuff that I've been doing for years, like shape tweening or slow motion tweens, you wind up with really weird effects where the symbol will jiggle around, which is completely stupid. And plus CS6 includes a lot of my third-party plugins still work on that, whereas with Animates, they keep having to update them, and people don't keep up with that. I use Autodesk 3ds Max for 3D. I use Blender once in a while. I use Blender more for my personal stuff than for work. Plus, I use all of the other, like Adobe Suite. I use Illustrator and Photoshop and Premiere. You need the right tool for the right job. If I need to script something and my eyes are going crossed in After Effects, I'll go to Notepad++. What else? That pretty much covers it.
so a lot.
I use a lot of different softwares.
Once you've hit the 8+, Blazing Mandrill asks, once you've hit the 8+ hours for 30-ish minute videos, it could get frustrating depending on how fast you want to release them. Yeah, our 30-minute videos usually take maybe an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how much color correction I did.
It's a good thing you understood what he was talking about. It didn't occur to me that he was saying that it might take 8 hours to render 30 minutes of video. No, our stations are powerful enough to chug through 30 minutes pretty quickly.
Yeah, I remember 30 minutes on my laptop. When I started here, I had my own personal laptop, which was, I think it was a Gateway F-Series. I still have it, I just don't use it anymore, because this job basically killed it. But when I would use that one, I think it only had 4 gigs of RAM, and it wasn't upgradable, which was BS for what was billed as a gaming laptop at the time. this was like right as Alienware started to take over and no one else had come along to compete with them really. And I think I got my laptop when they were like discontinuing that series. But anyway, that one would take easily 4 hours to do the same half hour that the desktop I have now does in an hour, hour and a half. So yeah. For a long time I didn't do color correction because it just meant more pain.
My personal computer can't even handle HD video. Then again, my personal computer I bought in 2006.
Yeah, that'd be about the time my laptop was in 2009, 2010. It had to be 2009. I was still in college and I only got through my last semester with that because the computer labs would not have been open enough for me to do all my projects.
Oh.
I was dumb and took 3 production classes at once. And film theory.
My computer could handle Flash, so that's probably more than anything why I wound up doing Flash animation so much.
How big has the pile of old storage drives got so far? I don't know. I'd say it's probably between 2 and 3 dozen.
Yeah.
If we count Keizu.
Yeah, if we count Keizu, but the thing is, like, the newer footage is on bigger drives, so it's like skewed towards old footage in terms of number of drives, but in terms of number of terabytes, it's probably about even.
Someday I'm actually going to consolidate the Kalamazoo drives just so we have extra backup drives sitting around because those are still like 2 terabytes each. A lot of them are super redundant though.
Oh.
But since people keep sending new drives, I haven't like had an absolute need to do that.
Thank you to everyone who has sent in new drives.
Have you guys seen the Hackaday article on the CRT Smash vid? What do you think about what they said?
There was an article?
Yeah, it came out today. It seemed pretty tongue-in-cheek, so I don't, like, as far as what the actual author wrote, I don't really care. Like, I don't know why they're pretending CRTs are that useful or worth saving, because every time we get one, we can't give them away. And all the ones that we smashed were either not working or were so cheap and crappy that, like I said, who would take them? Like, the only thing I see people wanting CRTs for personally in my like daily life is so they can play their N64 or GameCube or any other older console without it looking weird. We get
This is exceedingly tongue-in-cheek.
We get a few more views out of it, so I'm rather ambivalent if they were actually malicious, but I don't believe they were. It was humorous enough to me.
Blazing Mandrill, your YouTube page's banner is glorious, and I want you to understand that. I saw it when I hovered over your name. That's lovely.
I would love to meet someone who would just take CRTs off our hands for whatever stupid reason.
Yeah.
It's really annoying the days that we get a ton of those and then have to fill Gaylords to get rid of them properly.
I think it's more annoying for Batman, but yes. Because he has to move them twice. But
True.
the only potentially hurtful thing that author said was these people aren't scientists, but we never claimed to be, so. Jackhog123 asks, what has been your favorite project to work on?
Why is that my question?
I don't have a good answer right away.
Neither do I. Like, it probably sounds really sad, but so much of the stuff we do runs together now that I don't really notice a difference between shoots anymore.
Oh.
But that may be because I'm so stressed with controlling the environment as best as I can and the people, and then actually getting the shots that emotionally I'm a little shut down. because otherwise I start yelling at people and then I'm the mean one again. Oh, Blazing Mandrew is Rob 1992 in the IRC. Cool.
My favorite project that we've worked on is the Feathers episode of the Dinosaur Show. Even though now that I've watched it after some time has passed, I've seen some things that I should have done better or more succinctly. And I still regret how long it took in post-production to actually assemble the thing. But I'm still pretty proud of that episode. I like that I was able to make a coherent argument and support it with evidence.
I think I enjoyed the giant dinosaur skeleton video we did for that grade school classroom.
I forgot about that.
That was like, because we had to have you do actual acting.
Yeah.
It was like an 8-hour shoot.
That was a little bit grueling.
It was an 8-hour shoot for the majority of it one day. And then we had 2 pickup shots. One was at a truck yard to demonstrate how big the T-Rex would usually be. And then the pizza shot.
Our most expensive shot that we've had in a video.
Yeah, but everyone got food out of it.
This is true.
But I really enjoyed just actually getting to be a bit more creative and take a bit more time on it. Like, we still had time constraints, and there was more I wish we could have done, especially with, like, sound design, which we don't usually get to do because we have to be on to the next thing if a video is considered generally done. But I liked it a lot and would kind of like to do more stuff like that, a little more Bill Nye without the editor who may or may not be on a little cocaine. Like, I went back and watched Bill Nye recently and it was like, oh my god, I don't remember it being this fucking crazy. Just skipping from left to right and no setup for half the jokes. You were just in the sketch and it was still like educational, but it was like, what is going on? I think they just tried to cram so much in half an hour they figured it worked. I haven't kicked Chris yet today. I haven't really seen him today. And I'm sure he has enough people kicking him. I try not to unless he's actually earned it. And it's kind of not my place.
That's true.
What else would you guys like to know?
I was slightly proud when Liz asked me how many pizzas would it take to feed a Tyrannosaurus for a day, and I was able to come up with an answer.
Well, wasn't it we were going to start with Taco Bell? Like, just get tacos in 12 packs?
Possibly?
But then she realized the pizza would be cheaper and more people would get fed. You could feel everyone getting like slightly pissed off that I kept asking for a reshoot.
Yeah. There's pizza here. You're not letting us have it. And it was a pretty simple shot. I just had to jump in and say, blah, blah, large pizzas.
Mm-hmm. I don't even
And
remember
jump
what the
out again.
problem was. I think you stumbled once, and then another time you didn't actually look at the camera.
Yeah.
How many pizzas could you eat in a day? Maybe half of one? Like,
Unspecified reference frame. How big is a pizza? And what is the make of pizza?
let's assume it's just a large, generic
Well,
pizza.
because I could eat like 1.5 Jets pizzas, or
Wait, but which kind of Jets? Like the deep dish? Which is the only Jets pizza worth having? Or
whatever the kind is they usually get here, where it's square and greasy.
yeah,
as
those
hell.
are the deep dish. Which
yeah.
apparently they call Detroit deep dish. I did not know that.
Huh.
Like in general.
Well, I could eat 1.5 of those, or I could eat like a quarter of a Chicago-style pizza, or 2 of the little Jack's freezer pizzas.
A quarter.
Wait, he said in a day, not in a sitting. Jesus, in a day.
I don't think anyone here understands just how much you would gorge yourself if given an unlimited amount of food in one day.
Yeah.
He's tall. He needs a lot.
Blazing Mandrill, I did not initially understand, or at least I was answering the wrong question. I was thinking about how much pizza would I eat in a meal, because it didn't occur to me that you could have pizza for more than one meal in a day.
I've seen you tear through like pretty much one Little Caesars. But that's basically cheesy bread. Like, yeah.
I need a haircut.
You should draw yourself as a gerbil. Or some other animal that stuffs its cheeks with sustenance.
Oh.
Because that's basically what you would do if you could.
Blazing Mandrill advises against reheating your food using the heat from your computer.
I would not do that either. I don't think it would get hot enough to actually heat.
My personal station, if I'm gaming on it, gets pretty toasty because it's old.
Do you guys listen to music when you are working on things where audio isn't important yet? If so, what artists? I don't really listen to music. I seem to have a slight quirk where I don't find most music enjoyable. Like, it's there and I can appreciate why it's good or not, but I just don't enjoy the sensation of listening to music. So I usually listen to the news if I don't need to do audio work.
I listen to music all the time. I don't listen to music with words though, or at least not English words. I can't, or English words and like Italian are the two languages that I don't even speak Italian, but for some reason it gets to me. Are the two languages that I can't listen to if I need to concentrate on something. But I listen to a lot of film soundtracks. I listen to a lot of classical, especially like there's this violinist, cellist, string instrument guy called Jordi Salval, and a lot of the stuff that he plays on, a lot of the albums that he plays on, I listen to on the Spotify because they tend to be more ethnic fringe of Europe rather than the core of just Austria, Germany, which I find way more interesting. I especially like Russian classical, especially up to the turn of the century. He asked about favorite artists.
Uh-huh.
I like Michael Giacchino. I don't think James Newton Howard is capable of making a bad score.
Linus Tech Tips did a video of turning a PC into a pizza heater. I believe you. I haven't watched his videos in a while. I think I only ever glanced in to see what he was about. But I believe you that he did that. How about audiobooks or podcasts? I can't think of what it's called now. What's that weird, spooky podcast? Welcome to Night Vale. I listened to that for a little bit, and it was charming. Then I just kind of fell away from it. Lately, I haven't listened to much. I usually like to find free lectures sometimes, and that, but I haven't done that in a while. And audiobooks, I don't really do. I prefer reading them, and I don't drive enough to justify getting them otherwise. AVI Tech wants to know our favorite movies.
Podcasts.
Oh, well, fine, you answer.
Well, I don't often, I mentioned that I have a hard time, if I'm listening to something with English, I have a hard time focusing, but there are tasks that I have to do for this job where it is relatively mindless repetition. And in those cases, I can listen to podcasts while I'm working, and I'll listen to the Ask Historians podcast, which has a variety of topics, but they're always historical. And I listened to History of Byzantium. I didn't actually get into History of Rome while that was going on, but History of Byzantium so far has been really nice, and I still haven't caught up to the backlog. So whenever I have time to listen to it, I know I'll always have enough, no matter how many hours I'm going to be working. I'll also frequently like have a YouTube video open in the background so I can listen to it, because there's a lot of people that are doing like movie reviews and stuff where the picture doesn't matter. They're just talking. You're just listening to what they're saying, and I find that fun. I listen to like,
I do.
oh, and extra credits similarly, which is unfortunate because extra credits put so much work into their visuals, and I do think people should watch extra credits if they want to get into animation, because it's like a crash course in how you can represent abstract concepts visually. But once you've seen the episode, I sometimes go back and listen to like, especially their history episodes.
I was just gonna say I do that with Red Letter Media. I don't actually watch most of the picture.
I think the only Red Letter Media show I actually like sit down and watch is Best of the Worst.
Yeah, that one I'll actually watch the picture, but if they're actually reviewing the movie, I generally don't, because the only visuals they're using is usually just the press release footage anyway. Their review show is called Half in the Bag, if you haven't seen it.
They also have Review now.
Yeah, but that's just going back and looking at older movies, because people were bitching that they only bitch about how movies suck.
Which is, I never understood that criticism, because they always like start and end their reviews with, yeah, I liked it. Like,
Pretty much.
I don't remember the last time they didn't recommend a movie that they proceeded to pick apart.
AVI Tech wants to know our favorite movies.
I freaking love WALL-E. I had to like set a quota. I can't watch it more than once every 6 months because I was starting to lose the magic watching it every day.
After 6 months. Trying to think of what I've gone back to watch recently. I like Pan's Labyrinth a lot, and growing up, I think my favorite was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I like Ghibli films.
I was really big into Tim Burton as a kid too, but I haven't voluntarily really watched anything of his in years. Not since Sweeney Todd. I like a lot of Terry Gilliam stuff. Time Bandits and the Adventures of Baron von Munchausen? I can't remember. It may just be Baron Munchausen.
I haven't seen that one.
In Brazil in there, I just like how he layers actual shots with physical objects. It looks a lot like his animation actually, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Have you guys watched any anime lately? Not lately.
The most recent show I watched, I think Kill la Kill is still the most recent anime I watched.
Yeah, I can't think of any that I've actually taken the time to sit down and give a shot.
I'm watching, I'm keeping up with like American animation. I watch a lot of cartoons actually, but I've been watching Steven Universe, I've been keeping up with Adventure Time, and Gravity Falls is over.
Boo.
But I was keeping up with that.
I was doing Gravity Falls and Star versus the Forces of Evil.
Forgot about that show.
I can't even think of what I've been watching recently that counts as an actual show. I guess Jessica Jones. And I saw some of Daredevil. Which
Right. See, I keep meaning to like watch Daredevil season 2, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Jack Hogg 123 asks, "What's your education? Do either of you have a degree?" Do you want to go first?
Yes. I have a Bachelor of Science in animation. I have a Bachelor of Science in film and video production with an emphasis on animation.
And I have a Bachelor of Arts because I'm too lazy for math classes in film and video with an emphasis in post-production.
I went to Grand Valley, where the only math class you need to take for a Bachelor of Science is statistics. And I could have waived it if I was smart.
I was so lazy, I took logic, which counts as a philosophy class.
I wish I had taken logic. My advisor stuck me in aesthetics, which is
Ew.
the most bullshit class.
See, that's your problem. You actually went to advisors.
Yeah, I was young and naive, and I listened to what people told me to do. I should have taken logic, because then I would know what all those cool little symbols mean.
I had too much social anxiety and just figured it out on my own. But I graduated in only 4 years.
Yeah. So you finished ahead of the class.
Will this be uploaded to YouTube later? Probably. I mean, we took it, or we're doing this one publicly, so I don't see why not. Generally, these Q&As will actually be the perk for the $5 a month option on our Patreon page, which if you haven't gone there, you can just search the Geek Group on Patreon and find us. So probably...
Link in the description.
There's also a link in the description. The ones after this... the ones after this, which will have a different camera, will probably be unlisted and only for patrons of $5 or higher. And now please stand by.
I was totally going to push a button on the camera every 15 minutes, but I completely forgot.
Are we good? Yay! So, if you want to help out the AV department at the Geek Group and help us get our shit together for the low price of $5 a month, you can hang out at more Q&As with us. We'll do 1 or 2 a month at least.
And we'll probably actually get a webcam or some similar such device. David Archer asks, what is the Easter egg that Chris mentioned was in the Captain's blog opening titles?
Scroll down a little bit. I have no idea. I never bothered to actually get that answer.
I made the Captain's blog opening titles. I didn't put an Easter egg in it.
So it's something Chris noticed that's important to him, but may not have been to anyone else, except diehard fans.
Unless I put an Easter egg in it and forgot about it. Am I a sleeper agent?
You were the mole all along.
Hey, I've been watching that show too, Young Justice. In the last episode, second to last episode, he was like, I was the mole. It was like, I called it, you dick. You shouldn't have been a dick to everyone, thus tipping your hand.
Okay.
It was obvious.
If Kev Kumar asks, if TGG wasn't formed back in the day, what do you think you would be doing today? Probably wouldn't even live in Michigan anymore. I probably would have took off for one of the coasts and tried to get work out there. I was a month away at best to doing just that, because I'd been out of college for almost 2 years at that point. Yeah, because it would have been May, so a couple months short. But it seemed like the next logical step, because there wasn't much work in Chicago either at the time, which was where I had been going for an after-college internship for a bit, which is really dumb because it ended up being me driving once a week to my internship in Chicago, driving an hour away to where a friend from high school lived and crashing on her couch, and then getting up at 5:30 in the morning to drive back into downtown, well, not downtown, about 10 minutes up Lakeshore Drive from downtown, on a good day. Anyway, drive back to my internship, and then immediately after my internship, run to my car and get back on Lakeshore Drive before 5:15, or else be caught in traffic and drive the 3 hours back to Grand Rapids. So moving to New York or LA and hedging my bets didn't seem like a much dumber idea, is what I'm saying.
When I started here, I was having trouble finding any job, much less a job in animation. Honestly, I would probably have had to go back and live with my dad and find freelance work. And then, I don't know, I probably would have wound up on one of the coasts as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's just where the work is. If you're not doing... I don't have the rest of that sentence yet.
Well, the problem during that time was the film incentives in Michigan were basically bottomed out the year I
That's right.
the year I graduated, which was 2010. So the only work you could get as a college graduate was the kind where they paid you by putting your name in the credits, which is BS and should only be offered to college students at best, but even they should be getting paid. I have a lot of problems with the film industry, which is why I'm really glad I didn't have to take off for either coast, because I don't think I would have lasted. But yeah, all of my jobs in video, minus one that was actually in Kalamazoo, which I was actually working until a couple months into Geek Group. Like, it was a freelancer kind of gig where I was filming MMA fights. Other than that, all of the work experience I got was like, we'll put your name in a credit, and most of those jobs I got so sick of, I quit before it was even over, because like the movie was only going to be released direct to DVD in parts of Europe and BS like that, and some of the people there sucked pretty bad, and yeah, I was over it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be editing and stuff, and then I came here, and I had the idea even before I graduated to maybe one day open some kind of community media center, because I'm way happier helping people learn this stuff and go do their own creative thing than like trying to run big budget things has ever sounded in my head. So yeah, when I first met Chris after finding an ad for an internship and came here, it was basically, well, their ideals, as I'm understanding them, basically line up with what I want to do like 10 years from now after what I've been trying to do, which is get experience. So I may as well work here for as long as they'll have me, and some idiot put me in charge. So yeah. Ever thought of doing work on Fiverr? I'm not sure what that is. Is that some kind of like freelance bidding site, or?
I have not heard of Fiverr either. There were a couple of like attempting to be a forum for people to post jobs and have people bid on them and so forth. I think I still have a Wooshi account, but last time I visited that site, it was basically broken.
Yeah.
And no, so the answer to AVI Tech's question is no. Never thought of it.
I would totally look it up, but my laptop is dead because I'm dumb and forgot to charge it.
Cool.
What was your first job in film or animation? I guess technically my first job was my internship I took when I was still in school. I was a PA and assistant editor of sorts on a documentary that is still not released, that a professor was doing about the real women of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which, if you've ever seen A League of Their Own, those people. So I did stuff like prepping edits from the interviews and stuff, and I actually went to one of their like yearly meetups that they have all over the country to interview more women and stuff like that. I guess AVI Tech will have to look into that. This is the first I'm ever hearing of that particular site. We're sort of experimenting with another site, but yeah. We're not trying to add too much outside work to what we do anymore, because especially since it's only reliably the two of us most of the time, it just completely stops geek group work, and I'm really sick of that happening, and half the time it's not even worth working with the corporations or that. And well, at least as far as getting any money in a timely manner goes, it's just the process is long and hard, and it's made longer and harder by the fact that there's only 2 people doing it, so there's no way to expedite it.
Well, there's also we're short-staffed in the rest of the building as well, so even the 2 people we have keep getting pulled away for things.
Yeah, that too.
My first job in film, video, or animation was actually working for the college, so I don't know if that even counts. I made a series of animated videos and special effects for live-action videos, explaining how to use one of the software tools for their site. So basically they were animated explainer videos, which I've never really stopped doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think my first film job outside of college was working on the movie that I vaguely mentioned. I think it was called All You Can Dream, and it was about this girl who was really fat, and the entire plot was she lost weight because her mom had a heart attack because her mom was really fat, and she entered a singing competition and she won. And as far as I can tell, the moral of the story was if you get less fat, good things will happen. So yeah. I was a production assistant on that.
I think I have an IMDb credit for helping a person I went to school with some special effects for his film. I made like some glowing magical fish. That was after I started here though, so that doesn't count as my first.
I'm not sure what Cheshire is saying yeah to.
I'd have to unmute the stream and put on my headphones, but I'm gonna do it. No, that doesn't work. It's
He
already
typed it
passed.
out.
No, I mean, because I could listen to
hear
it and
what-
see where we
oh.
are in the delay there, but,
Yeah. What else would you guys like to know? We have 20 people watching now. That is more than I expected. Oh no, it went down. I jinxed it.
how dare you?
Come back, friend.
Oh, he was
I'm like half off screen.
my trebuchet is crowding me.
I don't know what kind of world problems that'd be. Would it be?
Well,
would it be first
communism and capitalism had really not formalized at that time, so you wouldn't have a first and second world to compare.
That's true.
Like, there were communal settlements and there was something approaching a market economy, but it wasn't a modern market economy. Middle Ages. Someday I'll do a video about catapults and potential and kinetic energy, all that fun stuff.
There are a lot of videos we could do if we had people. So what else would you guys like to know? You have us for at least another 20 minutes, but if questions keep trickling in, we'll go for like another 50. 8 o'clock is the cutoff either way, but yeah.
What can I say about the state of the department? Well, I've been trying to work better. I've been trying to establish some metrics for how long it takes me to do things, because I have a serious problem with scope. Like, I'll have way too much ambition when I'm starting, say, the animation for a dinosaur episode, and then it winds up taking, 3-4 times longer than I expected it to, because I should not have tried to do as much as I did. And I really need to work on how to use the volunteers that I have, because I have 3 volunteers right now. One of them is just here to learn Illustrator, so there's some things I can give her, but she's mostly just she's here to use our equipment. But I have 2 motion graphics people here, and I really need to get better about giving them tasks and staying on them to get them done in a timely manner, and making sure that they know what they're supposed to be delivering, which is not, that's more of a communication issue than a their skill issue, because they're both good at what they do.
Does Liz know anything about dinosaurs? Not especially. I remember that the Diplodocus either is or was a dinosaur, because I had to do a thing on them in 4th grade. But yeah, I generally don't process any of the dinosaur information I receive in a way that I retain it.
What Liz knows about dinosaurs comes in the form of, hey Liz, did you know that blah blah blah, blah 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 from over here across the room?
I am assaulted by dinosaur facts.
And she can't unsubscribe because we work in the same room.
What else you got? I'm not sure what else I can say about it. Like, right now we're working on the Jeff autopsy video. Well, I'm editing it. And I'm trying to find a way to bring it together in a way that doesn't have it lasting the 3 days that we actually shot it over. I think most of those days were 4 to 6 hour blocks.
Is that going to take autopsy graphics or robotics lab graphics?
I really don't know at this point.
Okay.
Like, I have to just see what I can pare it down to. Kev Kumar asks, so when you have interns in working, do they usually produce videos to your level of quality? There was a time when they did, and it was because Steve and I were also still very inexperienced. But now, not so much. We actually tend to produce it in a way that you can't just sit an intern down with like a general tutorial of how to do things the way we do them and not have them, no matter how many things you correct for after one messes up, the next one always manages to mess something up gloriously in some novel way. And while that's like, oh wow, you can do that badly, it's very grating, because I'm sick of rewriting the same multicam tutorial.
I have had better luck than Miss Liz has with interns. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an intern. The person is here to learn, so you can't expect the same quality that you would get if you did it yourself. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here for an internship.
Yeah. I try to stick to the 80-20 rule, and it usually becomes the 90-10 rule, because some days I feel like I may yell.
What is the 80-20 rule in this context?
It's generally supposed to be 80% like what you expected. So it's really more like the 70-30 rule. I should have gone the other direction. 80% what you expect to be done, but a 20% wiggle room of you can't manage this because if you try, it's micromanaging, basically.
Oh. Never heard it expressed that way.
So yeah, it's more like I kind of just draw back more and see just how bad they mess it up before they actually talk to me and say I need help. It's like a preemptive punishment for not communicating with me, because that's most of their problems now.
Yeah, it's been a running theme with her editing interns that they just straight up won't ask for help. Which, it's fine to take a crack at the problem yourself. That's how you learn. But
well,
the problem is
some of them won't even take a crack at it. They'll just stare at it and expect me to magically know that they need help. We should change the subject, because I could fill an hour with the grievances of having to be a manager.
Steven wants, or JDB Manilow wants to ask me what started my interest in dinosaurs. I wish I could answer that. I do not remember. It has receded into the fog of my early childhood memories. The earliest memory I have of being interested in dinosaurs was I had this magazine called Dinosaurs! Exclamation point, with a Tyrannosaurus on the cover, and you got a set of 3D glasses if you bought the magazine. I got it at the checkout line in the grocery store, and then I subscribed to the next 20-ish issues. And you open it up, and it had pretty good for the time. Like, I've gone back as an adult and read them, and it was pretty up to date for the mid-90s. For what we knew about these animals, the art was not up to date, but they were using what they had. I remember reading that to my dad on the couch. So I've been interested in it for as long as I could read.
What do you guys do in your free time? I jog. Sometimes I play video games. It's usually just a few rounds of TF2, though I haven't been doing that because since Overwatch came out, all that was left of good community in TF2 left to go play Overwatch.
Oh.
But I'll play like The Binding of Isaac for a few minutes and stuff now and then. I've been doing a little more cooking, which is really just meal prepping, so I don't go out and buy crap for lunch at work. Reading, stuff like that. I have a pretty boring free time life because I don't have much free time, so I don't go out of my way to do a lot. You don't need to look sad.
Well, it's true. You do work a lot. I also spend a lot of my free time cooking. I don't do like full meal prep, but I do modular meals throughout the week. I'll make 2 servings worth of chili, and then I'll eat the next serving the next day. But to eat that, I have to make rice, so like I have a constant rollover of different foods that I have parts of. And when you're doing that for 3 meals a day, that takes up a significant portion of your time. I play video games. I play Besiege is getting better and better, which is weird because it's early access, so it's supposed to have failed by now, but it hasn't. Play a lot of RTS. I like Age of Empires series. I like the Total War series.
Liz, do you have a passion or interest you'd want to make videos about? See, now I gotta reference the hobbies I haven't done in like a year because I'm just too tired when I get home from work. I guess I wouldn't mind doing something on like stenciling, like the spray paint type of stenciling. But I haven't made an actual painting in quite some time. I think the last thing I did was a stencil I made and cut out of Billie Holiday on a record, which, yeah, I can't easily access a picture of from here.
So I have this trebuchet, and I'd like to make videos about this trebuchet, and larger trebuchets. I'd like to make a larger trebuchet and make videos about the larger trebuchet.
Wow, that's metal. Okay.
Yeah, those are steel blocks. Because when you make a miniature trebuchet, it's actually really hard to get it to scale.
Yeah.
Because, if you fill a giant bucket with dirt, that weighs quite a bit proportional to the size of the machine, whereas with a little one, you can't do that, even if you use rocks.
Uh-huh.
But I'd like to make videos about that. I'd really like to make videos about animation, teaching people the basics of animation. There are plenty of resources online for that already, but no reason I can't throw my hat into the ring.
What's it like to work with for Chris?
It's never boring. That's a lie. Sometimes it's hurry up and wait, but you're waiting for something exciting at least.
Yeah. Generally, it's pretty good. There are some aggravating days where everyone's just pissed off at each other, but that happens anywhere. You can usually count on him to have a good blooper.
Yeah, that's true.
We're gonna skip that one.
Steven, about Besiege, craziest creation. I made a Kentrosaurus that basically walked. Okay, so a Kentrosaurus is a stegosaurus, but the spikes keep going up the tail to the hip. And like I had it so that it could swing its tail and kill guys with its Thagomizer. And I thought that was cool.
The look on our faces was priceless. That's called trying to be diplomatic. Now, what you guys see in the blog, you see there for like 2 hours usually. We get Chris on a much higher level, and sometimes we're tired. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I am a very, very introverted person, so I run out of energy to deal with people very fast, which sucks because I'm the director, and my main job is to direct the people, and rely on like anyone else handling cameras or that to generally know what their job is. Like after I give them an idea of what we're doing. So some days it's not even Chris. I just want to be in my hidey hole because I'm up to here with people over it. And that's basically his thing too.
What? Oh, I try to be professional as much as possible. I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that professionalism is taking other people's unprofessionalism in stride.
Mm. The most interesting way you've broken a camera, I guess that'd be the chip auger with the contour.
Define broken.
Like cannot use again?
Yeah,
or just makes a funny picture? Because
I've broken them enough that I had to fix them, but that was like dropping it off the roof. Whereas, I'm having a hard time. We haven't broken that many cameras. We broke the contour because I was young and naive and didn't say no when Chris said to put it through a chip auger. We didn't even get the shot.
Well, we got something, because I remember there being a video clip where at the end, he's saying something like, "Is it still running?" But I think after that, it never turned back on.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a couple of the GoPros that we have stop working, but I don't know why they stopped working. We might have just run them into the ground.
Well, I think they overheat in the scuba cases because they're not really meant to run continuously in those, as far as I know, or they're meant to be in water, which probably in some way helps dissipate some of the heat they're generating. Maybe, but
it might be because we use them for like time lapse sometimes, and we have to plug them in to do that, and it doesn't like being plugged in. It heats up. That might be why we burned them out. But
Liz, are you as mean as Chris lets on? He actually stands up for, people calling me mean and that than most people have. At least he has in the last few years. Like, we have our disagreements, but he's the first to tell people to knock that crap off because the joke's not funny anymore. That's actually been a really bad problem, is that there'll be people bringing, like, new recruits or people through the building and introducing me as the mean one, which kind of drives my introversion to be worse because the expectation set up that I'm going to treat this new person like crap, and that makes me instantly socially, it ramps my social anxiety up. I try to hide my anxiety by being quiet. So I know I'm not a lot of people's cup of tea. I don't know what caused it, but I grew up to be absurdly frank and blunt in most cases, and apparently to most people, whereas in my head, I'm usually stating a fact, most people think I'm being a bitch. So yeah, I'm working on myself in the ways that I know need to be worked on, but as far as Chris goes, he's actually usually making a point to people to not take me at face value and yelling at staff who keep making that joke.
I don't have much to add. She's not mean. I think a lot of people only ever interact with Liz when she's on set, which is exactly the wrong time to be trying to be social towards her. No
Yeah,
offense.
a lot of people here have taken a long time to learn that when Steve and I or interns are on set, that is our workspace. And just like you wouldn't walk up and tap a welder on the shoulder and try to yell in their ear while they're welding, you really shouldn't be doing that to anyone holding a camera or trying to herd people. So yeah, I get testy really fast because, yeah, if I'm trying to herd someone who's getting distracted by someone, or someone's trying to talk to me, or there's a group having a conversation that doesn't need to be had anywhere near where the shoot is happening, something about the sound of voices makes my brain tune into them while I'm trying to do other stuff, and I get frustrated easily. So I think that's where a lot of the meanness comes from, because I become instantly curt and chase them away if they don't need to be there. Silly Zombie 666 suggests I carry a taser for such occasions.
Not to use, just to
Just-
threaten.
Just to tap slightly against my hand. That would probably work, but I do not think it would help my situation.
Dave Archer has kind words.
Thank you, Dave. I'm glad not everyone sees me that way. It's something I'm working on regardless, because it does need to happen.
I want to make my apples and oranges video. I want to make a video where we compare apples and oranges by shooting them out of the air cannon. Damn it!
We actually have a cattle prod somewhere. I could totally use a cattle prod.
I'm so freaking good at this.
We went black again, guys, so give us a second. We've only got about half an hour left, so yeah. Yay! Well, kind of. We're sort of back. Are we back?
I believe we are back. It's going to take a second to...
I'm sorry, guys. We keep forgetting to push a button or something.
So just going to set a reminder on the phone. I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, I'm going to press a button on the camera.
I'm surprised it keeps picking up as the same stream. I think it is anyway.
I hope it is.
I can stitch it together later with the video editor on YouTube if I have to.
Mathazala says, quick, make a silly face.
I think that was for when it was black. It's not so much that we're having problems, it's that we're just extremely forgetful because our workday usually ends at 6 and we're here as early as 9.
Also, we work in AV. Of course we have AV problems, constantly. I don't remember the last time I had a day that I didn't have an AV problem. Oh yeah, I do. Sunday, because I wasn't working.
But did you have like any video card problems at home?
Damn it.
Oh my god, did you?
I did, but it was because I had to verify the integrity of my game cache because I had to reinstall my mods, and so it reset all my graphics settings to Ultra, which my card can handle, but my processor can't.
Oh, we'll leave the black spots in if they're still there in one cohesive bit. I was just talking if this saves as like 4 separate videos because we had to stop and start streaming again to get the picture to come back.
AVI Tech wants to know, where are you all from? Hometowns. I am from various towns in Illinois, most recently Shanahan, which is near Joliet. Before that, Lamont. Before that, Willow Springs. But I was born in Chicago proper.
And I've lived across Michigan my whole life. I was born on the east side and migrated west, and I just haven't moved since college. What else you guys want to know?
I'm gonna stop twirling my hair.
I think next time I'll have way more stuff to like run by them graphics wise and that, like real feedback and stuff,
What do you mean?
like titles and stuff like that, or just little ideas.
Oh,
This
actually,
was-
like do also a status update and talk about what we've
Well,
been
we
working
kind
on.
of did. The status is we're where we were a month ago, just some actual patrons kicking in, which is awesome. But yeah, we're just kind of getting a feel for who shows up to watch these things and that, and making it more of the traditional AMAs that we've done so far. Because there's just nothing really new to show since like the last live streams we did anyway. I've been doing a lot of stuff with getting the research team set up and ready, which is happening basically starting tomorrow. They'll be led into the subreddit that I set up in that, and we'll go from there. But yeah, things will be a bit more structured the next time, or at least there will be more opportunity for feedback and actually being a part of things as they hopefully grow and change with a consistent pace.
I just thought of something from an earlier question they were asking about. What are you passionate about? What do you want to make videos about? I had a personal project that I haven't made any progress on whatsoever. When I was in school, they didn't really teach us anything about what happened between the fall of Rome and like 1066. Turns out there was a lot going on, and that's always been really interesting to me. My entire adult life, I've been reading about the Dark Ages, and there's a series of stories collected into a book called Tales of the Early Franks. It's a translation of an adaptation of blanking on his name, Gregory of Tours' History of the Franks, which I've also read. And I think somebody needs to make like an animated or even just extra credits, zero punctuation, stills animation style breakdown of what was going on with the Merovingians, because that is some grade A soap opera royalty, Game of Thrones stab in the backy shit. And I think it wouldn't really fit in with the Geek Group stuff, which is why I was researching it for a personal project, but I would totally like to make videos about that. Or I could just suggest it on the extra history forums. That's totally their wheelhouse.
JackHog123 says, congrats on 1,000 subs. Thank you. I don't know how many of that 1,000 actually tune into us anymore, because it was like sitting at 997 for a year when we last shot a blog.
Oh, on those AV Geeks.
Yeah. The toolkit went up a lot too, which if you haven't seen the toolkit yet, I think that link is also in the description, but you can also find it from like the Geek Group's channel. So like in the featured channels on the oh yeah, it is there. Cool. I got your info, AVI Tech. I'll be in contact with you tomorrow about getting started with some equipment autopsy stuff and into the subreddit and that. I don't know. I've never learned how to say your name, so I'm just going to say each letter. KE5SUI, which I assume is a ham handle, says, oops, I forgot about the Q&A, which is okay, because you have at least half an hour, and we'll put this back online later. And they also ask, will you be doing any more Let's Plays? Hi, Cheese. I don't know. We're not really set up to do it anymore, and it was fun, but I didn't really feel like our thing. I don't know. What's your opinion on doing it?
I enjoyed them, but our schedules outside of the times when we are here at work, our schedules don't overlap very much. So it would be difficult to do. I mean, we could do like one person is here playing and one person is like over the internet or something, maybe, but it's not really in the spirit of Let's Plays.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe sometime in the future, but there's no real plans to do it now. They were a huge part of just general fundraising way back when, like a sort of perk for people finishing stuff out in that, and There's just other stuff that goes on with like fundraising outside of AV that we're just not needed to contribute in that same way, so we just generally don't, which is why it kind of just stopped being a thing. What else would you guys like to know? You have about 20 more minutes with us, assuming people keep asking questions.
I'm gonna make a ham and cheese joke.
Didn't you just make it by mentioning it?
I did.
Okay. When you do a multicam edit, when you do multi-camera edits, when is the best time to switch to an alternate view? Basically, what I do is when you are doing a multicam edit and you click on a camera, you have that camera jump to like the main player head area next to the little outline of all the cameras. You don't look at that. What you do is you watch the other however many cameras and you just watch for when something pertinent is happening in any one of them and then click to it. The trap a lot of people fall into is they look at that main camera that's already been picked and there's no point because you know it's showing what you want there generally. And if you like accidentally click too late or something, you can go back and clean that up so it's like a wash to try and make sure you get it perfect by looking at that part anyway. But the best time to switch is whenever a better angle shows up or something is happening on the new camera that is really, really important to show and is not showing up well enough on the one that is picked, or if you know you're going to be cutting a huge chunk out of the video. Usually I try to cut where I sort of expect the camera to go to kind of cover the cut, like where that big chunk disappears from, ahead of time. It doesn't always work, but I try to. I think that's generally it. Yeah, that's part of the problem we have here too. She says, I often find myself with not enough angles, so I end up switching to an alternate view only when the main camera is obscured or otherwise not interesting, which isn't a bad strategy. If you have a shot that works, there is a school of thought, especially in a lot of broadcast editing, that if the shot is working and there's nothing else going on, and there's nothing to fix, there's no reason you should be cutting, essentially. Which I don't know how effective that school of thought is outside of like an art or film theory measure anymore, because everyone is so used to quick cuts even when they're not needed, because of just the nature of video these days.
I mean, that still applies like if you're filming a baseball game or something.
But, I mean, I wouldn't call it poor planning so much as you've just been getting really lucky and having something always interesting on your main camera, which I envy you for. But yeah, there is an art to mastering having at least at all times 2 cameras getting a proper shot without someone blocking it, or the camera just not looking at the right thing, or it's framed badly for what's happening at that moment, even though it was fine right before that moment happens. And yeah, it's especially hard when you're, I assume, doing it by yourself, or in our case, like, we can only man 2 cameras particularly well at any one time. Any other questions? There's a lot of stuff I would like to do on like just editing theory, but I think that would be trying to compete with people like Nerdwriter and Every Frame a Painting at this point, who do video essays so well that I don't even try.
That's not a good excuse.
Well,
anything, they've-
okay, fine,
if
time.
If anything, time is definitely a factor. I have a list of things that I'd like to do, either short videos or even just written blog posts about, and I just haven't done it.
Oh, I'm sorry, JDB. I'm no longer in IRC. My laptop died.
Well, thank you, JackHog123.
I have a hard time getting video from my DSLR, a couple generations of GoPros, and maybe someone's phone to match. Any tips for that?
Depends on what you mean by match.
Do you mean match in terms of resolution or just, yeah, color and exposure? Color, well, honestly, there's not much for that. We used to play with several different cameras, and between how much one camera may automatically crush the blacks versus another, or how one's affected by exposure compared to another. Like, we had two of the same cameras, our JVCs, the ones that we had when I started here. One would always color correct warm, and the other would color correct cold. So no matter what you did or how well you lit something, there would always be one blue shot and one red shot. So it's pretty much do your best to make it all look the same and be happy with it. Because honestly, you can't do much more without being like at the height of professional color correcting.
Although there is free software available for color correction that you should look into. DaVinci Resolve, I believe it's called.
Yeah, that's true. That did turn free like beginning of the year.
Or at least as a free version.
Yeah.
But when you're using that disparate of sources, you're gonna have to do like, I can make them look all the same, or I can make them look good.
Yeah.
And if you're mixing media to that degree, maybe the audience will forgive you a certain amount of this camera looks different from the other, because those are three very different kinds of lenses, I presume, as well. So
Yeah, well, you can see that a lot in the Robot Smash video that we just did most recently. Because we had the GoPros, we had the NX5s,
yeah,
then we had a couple of the Averios. And you can kind of tell, and the Edgertronic, and you can kind of tell that I just didn't try to match them because it wasn't worth it. So it's really just somewhere along the line, learn enough to make them match, but definitely take a good long look at it and decide whether or not the particular project is worth it, because especially with stuff like GoPros, it usually isn't.
Kyle Raked wants to know what we use for shooting high FPS shots and how hard it is to record something like a Tesla Coil or Thumper. I am totally going to do a stream at some point about my method for how to get a usable shot out of... I have to press this thing. I have to do something on the camera.
I think it took a picture.
All right. So, like, we have done high-speed shots of the Tesla coil. The hard part there is the Tesla coil we're using, for whatever reason, I don't exactly understand how Tesla coils work.
You didn't actually answer the question. You're getting into...
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll let him finish, but we use an Edgertronic, which is basically the cheapest but still good high-speed camera out there right now, and it's like $7,000? I feel like we paid more, but $7,000 or $8,000, I think. And it's just a little blue cube. And yeah, it takes pretty good video. The problem with it is that the lens it came with doesn't do close-ups. Like I don't think it even zooms.
No.
So it's kind of hard to get close-up shots of stuff right now, and getting stuff like lighting in that is still not the best, which is why Steve does what he's about to describe.
I wrote a script that pulls out all the black frames from your video, because the way that the camera records the coil, you have lightning flash and then a few frames of black, and then lightning flash and then a few frames of black, and it just looks terrible, and you can't see the continuity of the arc. And so I basically faked it in order to show how the ionization trail remains. Also, something like Thumper, the way that the Edgertronic works, at least, and I assume the way that other high-speed cameras work, because even the NX5's weird thing does this, you have a pre-trigger. The camera is basically always recording, and you pick when you want it to save. So you can, I mean, with Thumper, we have a 3, 2, 1, go thing that we do, but if you don't know when something is going to happen, you just set it to full pre-trigger, and then you record the 10 seconds leading up to the thing that happened, and you press the button after it happens. Stuff like that.
AVI Tech asks, I saw the other day during edit you had lots of camera views load in timeline. Does that slow render a file size? No, because what's happening is you load up your cameras in one sequence and you get them all synced up so that, you know, the video and the sound are all working at the same time and all of that. And what you do is basically like compositing is in After Effects or Photoshop or that, where you're layering sequences. So you actually take that first sequence and drop it in another one, and then you enable it for multicam. So when you multicam edit, when you go to render in that sequence, Premiere basically considers that one stream of the different cameras now cut together in this multicam way as one camera. So it's not trying to digest 4 tracks, it's digesting one that's referencing 4 in so many words, or so few words, I guess. Steven will be looking, or you're gonna look at it now. Does YouTube really still do that .com BS?
I believe it does.
Wow. What is going on?
I don't know yet.
Up next,
it's
a
a T-Rex
65-million-year-old carnivore from the Cretaceous period. It's
We will watch
Tyrannosaurus
that
Rex.
later. Thank you.
On the one hand, I love how popular those frickin' costumes have gotten. On the other hand, T-Rex didn't walk like that. It probably didn't even look like that. It would have been fluffy.
KE5, SUI, multiple sources. I've been half tempted to put a fake record overlay on some of them and acknowledge the fact that the video's kind of low quality, as though it was on a VHS camera. You could. That's one way to address it. I think a lot of people are used to the lack of, I guess, uniformity to most YouTube video once you get outside of the, I guess, mainstreamer YouTubers who are trying to do that weird corporate-y authentic look where they have cameras way better than they need for what they're doing and everything's really bright and fresh and clean and stuff. I think outside of that, having disparate sources, especially if you're releasing to something like YouTube, most people don't even notice anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is the part where I can't actually name any of the films, but I know there have been a lot of independent, smaller films recently where they just cut to iPhone footage or whatever, and they don't make a big deal out of it. That's just what... They're not even putting in overlays that immediately date the video or anything like that. It's just the change in format is familiar enough to the audience, and they trust their audience to understand that the person operating the you're basically using the camera as a performance in that case. That was a very convoluted way of answering your question.
So we have just short of 10 minutes left. Anything else you guys like to know? And it can be more general questions, or if you've thought of something about AV in general that you want to know about, like the department or plans that we may have or anything. It's whatever still. I typically shoot videos for events at my hackerspace, but I'm also usually participating in events being filmed. Do you have any tips for getting the motivation to film instead of play? I would say generally you just have to decide what you actually care about more. This is something I've come up against with people doing projects on camera, especially with people at the Geek Group. It's very hard for a person to remember that it's not just the project. The video in itself is a project, and both need due deference. And if you really can't focus on both, it's up to you to choose what's going on, which may include if you don't feel like you can step back from the project because you want your hands on it, which is totally understandable. You need to start finding people who can help you do the video well enough to justify stepping away for like however long you want to be stepped away from the cameras.
That is a good perspective, treating the video as a project itself. Oh, he's asking about events.
Yeah.
In that case, you're probably just going to need to find people, yeah, like she said, find people you trust to hand cameras to.
Would it be possible to get live stream on your dinosaurs or wrong shoots? We have done that in the past. I'm not sure why we didn't this time. I think I just honestly forgot. But we do stream to the general Ustream channel for the Geek Group, usually for those. So yeah, the next time we do one, totally.
Next time we do one, we'll actually do it the day that we had it scheduled.
Dinosaurs is a very strange series because it's easily probably our most popular outside of the high voltage videos. When we do high voltage, we're still struggling to get back into doing them like we used to. Well, better than we used to, but doing them as frequent as we used to before the fire. But it also, like, in a given year, you may only see 2 or 3 of those videos. So,
Trying to work on that.
well, yeah, that is a huge stopgap situation that we're trying to resolve. But as soon as we actually shoot another one, we'll totally live stream it. I just can't guarantee when we'll do another one. Any other questions?
I think Allosaurus needs to be the next one.
How are the FS100 and the NX5s holding up after 3 years? Other than a weird glitch that Green had with its flash unit, they're fine, and the glitch got fixed. Whatever, it just didn't want to read it for some reason at one point, or ejected it on its own, or something.
Yeah, a couple of times it ejected it on its own. The only problem we've had with the FS100 is when we use it for time lapse, it doesn't save to the external, but it turns out that's just the nature of how the camera works.
Yeah, that was annoying to discover.
I'm sorry.
That shoot got ruined before that occurred anyway. Short of a DSLR, are there any decent cameras out there that I can hand to someone and expect them to be able to get the shots I need while I'm participating in the event? I would just look into a cheap little HD Vario or something like that, like something where you flip a screen open and everything's probably already set to auto, which if you're traveling around a room a lot, it's whether or not you like the idea of auto, you pretty much need to have. Give them a day to sit down and figure it out, and after that, it's really up to them to learn what a good shot is and that, and you can only do so much to teach them without just telling them go play.
Bare bones camera guide for film and video. Admittedly, if you front load that the day before the shoot, you're probably going to set them up for failure because they'll be trying to do too much.
Yeah. But yeah, repeat the book. Bare bones camera course for film and video.
Bare bones camera course for film and video.
Yes.
It's like $9.
you might be able to still find it on Amazon. It was strangely hard to locate the last time I looked, but people seldom use at textbook sites and that all the time. And if you want to get good at camera work, it is definitely the best book you could possibly own for learning the basics.
That said, doing it that way is gonna, you'll need to control your audio, like probably personally. I don't know if that means, I don't know what your setup is like, but if that means carrying a mic or miking the room, I'm not sure about your exact needs, but you wouldn't want, if you're using a relatively cheap camera for your coverage, you're going to need a separate audio source.
Yeah.
Thesis statement being, it doesn't matter what camera you give them, it matters, you can get a good shot with anything as long as there's light hitting the camera.
All right, so last question for the night is from AVI Tech. Have you looked into the Camera X electronic trigger for triggering the Edgertronic? Nope.
Camera X, that just sounds violent.
We don't even really use the trigger it came with. We prefer to just hook it straight to a laptop. And that's just been what we've been comfortable with for the time being, because you kind of have to be near the camera anyway because of the lens not being able to zoom or anything. So if you want to change the shot, it doesn't make sense to keep running across the room. Steve is looking up the book. Yes, that is the book, Cheese.
Yes.
So yeah, if we start doing triggering with an actual control, we'll just give its actual one it came with another shot first. Anything to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
She's usually the one controlling the Edgertronic. I'm only using it if I'm like, is it in focus? No. Turns it slightly.
yeah,
Better.
the lag between the laptop and the camera is comical sometimes. But it is now 8 o'clock and we are going to head off for the night. Thank you guys a lot for just hanging out on our first Q&A as we get a feel for things as we go forward with what we're trying to do with Patreon and actually talking to you guys more and letting you see more of what we're doing. If you are not a patron and are interested in helping, you can look up the Geek Group on Patreon and see what kind of perks we offer, and if you want to help out, we thank you kindly. But you don't have to, like everything else involving donations around here. Not mandatory. Everything's still going to get done one way or another. Check out any of the links in the description to see other stuff we offer if you happen to be watching and have never heard of us before, because that happens sometimes, amazingly. And yeah, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you soon. You've got to stop the thingy.
Good night, everybody.